And we are live on... Hey, we're live on YouTube. Hooray! We went ahead and did it. We're mostly on time this week. We didn't piss off too many of the internet gods, so thank you.
There's still time.
What's that? Of course there's still time. Yeah, exactly right. Of course stuff's going to break, but that is the dynamism and stress and nail-biting adventure that is Boss Rush. Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Melissinos. I'm the principal evangelist for video games here at AWS. And with me is...
Dean Takahashi, lead writer for GameSpeak Adventure Beat. Also help organize the GameSpeak Summit events.
Yes, and...
Hey, I'm Mark DeLoura. I'm a longtime video game technologist, mostly working on games for learning these days.
That's right. And unfortunately, we are missing our fourth member here of Boss Rush, Susan Cummings. Unfortunately, she has fallen ill and sends her apologies for not being able to be here with us to... well, let me see. I don't want to play. Yeah, there we go. Little tringle for her. So this is the program where every Friday we get together and we just kind of talk about some of the big news of the week facing the games industry. Thanks for joining us today. And why don't we go ahead and start diving right in? As always, we're going to start with Mr. Takahashi, our news conduit. So, hey, buddy, welcome back. Welcome back stateside with your fresh haircut, as we mentioned before starting up here.
With the one my kids love to call the egghead.
Absolutely. I love it.
Oops, I messed my camera. We start with the fizzle because Susan is not here, but there was some still tough news in the game industry in the last week. About a week ago, we crossed this barrier of 10,500 layoffs that happened last year in only 5.5 months. So there's been now 10,800 layoffs in gaming, according to the game industry layoff tracker. Just more studios have been shutting down. Galvanic Games shut down after they shipped their final game, and it didn't quite do what they expected. Tough news continues. I think the interesting thing for some sort of context to the news is Matthew Ball, who's the author of the Metaverse book and CEO of Apillion. He's an investor. He took a pretty good crack at explaining all the challenges in gaming, and he did it in 30 tweets. It's like quite a tweet storm of his own. And I felt like it was a pretty solid explanation that took into account lots of different kinds of factors. And so when someone asks him what's happened in the game industry, his answer is it's complicated. And so I think that's definitely worth a read. I wrote a column about that, as well as, and I weaved in a panel that I did last week at XP Gaming in Toronto. I went to that conference, which drew about 700 people to Toronto, to downtown Toronto over a couple of days, talking about games. And Amir Satvat of Tencent was there, the guy who is the master job resource aggregator for gaming. And we talked about how it was sort of the best way to build your community during tumultuous times or difficult times. And I think most everybody on the panel said that just this notion of being authentic to your audience, really, and transparent with them as much as possible is the right way to go. So it's kind of like a combination of interesting messages, but also more tough news.
Well, okay, yes, and it continues to be tough news as the industry kind of finds its footing, right, after the incredible kind of sea change that it went through from, as we talked about, out of the pandemic, and then the ripple effect that's happened over the past 2 years. So with that, though, I'm going to lean into Mr. Mark DeLoura, because one of the things he committed to on the last week's program was to bring some positive news. So Mark, help us, buddy. Give us
After I
something
brought
that
everybody down.
that's womp womp womp. Exactly. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, of course. So let's not do that. Mr. DeLoura, what's a good positive ray of sunshine for the games industry this week?
Tough this week. One thing that I found: Gorilla Tag's made over $100 million on VR.
Yeah.
That's amazing. There
Yeah.
was, I think, a really good interview with Sean Layden that you should check out, where he talked about letting new games grow, which I thought was really good. And of course,
Well, actually, expand on that for a moment. Expand on that for a moment, right?
I did an interview, by the way, with the Gorilla Tag folks.
Oh yeah,
David Yee, the COO, number 2 guy at Another Axiom, and he gave me some of the interesting sort of backstory to that. I never really, crossed paths with the creator before, Crestel Smith. It was a solo developer who, built Gorilla Tag. It was, somewhat janky guerrilla art. It's the typical Facebook thing of they have arms but no legs. Right?
Legs are hard.
Yeah, and so he built this for the MetaQuest headset, and you just grab things, right? You move around by grabbing, and so you're constantly exercising as you're playing Gorilla Tag. And then you have to be fast. You chase people this way, and run around with them in a kind of like a jungle environment or a vertical environment, climbing trees and things like that. And yeah, it has been a spectacular success. And it launched in 2021, and since then has generated more than $100 million worth of revenue and 10 million players. So outstanding success there, and it just keeps on going.
Yeah.
And they announced this in a panel at the Augmented World Expo, which I didn't go to because they moved it out of Silicon Valley down to Long Beach this year. And there were lots of interesting announcements at the AWE, and another sort of positive one is that.
Well, hold on a minute before you jump off that. I wanted to also mention I have up here for everyone to see your story on Gorilla Tag here, and let's see. The game was the first app to pass 110,000 reviews on the MetaQuest store, which is like we don't normally we think about it in terms of downloads or revenue, not reviews, which is great. And it also caught this huge viral boost with popular streamers like Nacy and stuff like that play Beat Saber. She's amazing, by the way. Check out her videos, and and then kind of engage in the community to say, I didn't really know what this was about, and maybe I didn't give it enough of a look. Help me get into this. And then it just started this whole viral loop, right, of all these content creators and VR enthusiasts jumping in. So it's pretty good, and it's tiring as hell. Right, to play. As somebody who plays Beat Saber, and I'm a little sore today, a lot. Yeah, Gorilla Tag. That's something. That's a different level.
If you play it too much.
Yeah, that's a different level right there.
Yeah. It's very positive to hear, I guess, that VR is getting traction, and it's is a blue ocean, right? It doesn't have tons of developers in it, not too many, but the ones that are there, they're capable of growing. In this case, I think to beyond 50 employees, and other companies like Jesse Shell's company is now 160 people, and I think there's a very similar large number at Resolution Games, and they're all very successful game studios that chose to focus on VR, and it is paying off for them. You know, they're hiring people, and they have not run into demand problems the way the rest of the red ocean has, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did just notice that Meta opened up a grant program for lifestyle products. I think they called it for VR.
Mm-hmm.
So think of things like teaching you how to cook, or you know, go outdoors, or things that fit into your life as like hobbies, maybe more than games, but can also be crossed with games. So I was doing some work with them earlier this year, full disclosure, but it doesn't have anything to do with that. Anyway, that grant program's open. I'm a big fan of grant programs having come from the government, so be sure to check that out. I think they're due mid-October, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, and let's see. Another fun thing that emerged at Augmented World Expo was the company that is making VR shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You can run around in these shoes all you want from free aim VR, but you don't go anywhere. So it's sort of like a little, I guess I don't know what you call them, but it's kind of like the little chiclet like things that you're walking on in the, like say the Disney version of it, and yeah, you can. It's omnidirectional. You can just go anywhere you want and move more quickly in their view, because you're just really manipulating your own body, and you don't have to press buttons to move or anything like that. Right? So very interesting. And again, it's another thing that will tire you out, but now your legs can get a workout in as well. It's coming out in 2025.
And these are by whom? Do you know?
Let's see. Free Aim is the name of the company.
Free Aim.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've been working on it for quite a few years already.
I wonder what effect that has on your vestibular system. If it makes it less likely that you'll get sick because you're moving more of your body when you're moving in virtual space. Be curious to see.
I have to Google vestibular system.
I was going to say,
sorry,
SAT word.
I came from VR in the 90s. I'm sorry. If any VR people are watching the talk at AWE this last week from Tom Furness, who ran the lab that I came from in the late 80s and early 90s. He gave a talk. So if you're looking for talks by OG VR people, Tom is like one of the originals, and he gave a great talk, and it's up on YouTube.
Now, was he OG enough for like Sword of Damocles type VR?
He may be just after the Sword of Damocles, after Ivan Sutherland's stuff, but not by much. Yes, I think that was like mid-50s, and he was doing work kind of mid-60s.
Did I ever tell you that I used to work in the organization that Bob Sproul?
Oh yeah,
Bob Sproul was at Sun Microsystems heading Sun Labs. So people forget it's Evan Sutherland and Sproul. But it was always shortened to just Evan Sutherland.
Well, he got left out.
He sure did. Poor Bob. He did just fine.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, this company was run by a creator, actually Foxcroft, who was very interested in this and worked on it for 6 years now. So raised a few $100,000 in a round recently, but yeah,
cool.
Has managed to get shoes into everybody's mindset now.
Yeah, if I can use it inside of Walkabout Mini Golf, I'll be a happy man.
Yeah. Very cool.
Did you see the Matt Booty quotes this morning? I can't remember where those came from. Matt Booty was talking about closing Tango Gameworks.
No. Yeah, he gave an explanation. Yeah.
He said he kind of echoed the comments that were made before about it being posed for future growth, but then also made some comments about this company not being set up for success, given that its structure and some changes that had happened. So that was,
yeah.
I
I
don't
think
know.
one more mentioned that when they lost Shinji Mikami last year, that the leadership of the studio just was gone, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what he was trying to say without saying, maybe being a little politic about it.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of leads into Sean Layton's comment about having patience, right? And when you're in, I think not just in games, but just in business overall, when you're in that period of all this change and trying to run towards safer, more assured ground, right? It's important to not lose sight of the longer term strategy for the short term panic, right? And that's basically what Sean was saying was these games, right? Especially, newer ones like Hi-Fi Rush and those that reaching back to a style of gameplay that people loved, right? Jet Set Radio, Check Iron Radio type of stuff and style. It needs time to breathe, right? This stuff has a longer tail to it. The flip side of that, and we heard it from Phil, which is we also have to be profitable so we can continue to make more games, right? And so it's I'm not taking sides. I'm not trying to speak for anybody, right? It's a difficult needle to thread, right?
Yeah. I do think that this is one of the benefits that Microsoft and Sony should have as compared to Nintendo, is that as a broader scope business, they should be able to take longer term bets.
Yeah.
Or at least this is what I would think. It just depends on the way this company is run and if it's really like they try to keep the divisions separate from each other. But they should theoretically be able to give things more time to breathe, where Nintendo is so focused on games. If something doesn't do well, it impacts it more.
I do think that the challenge for first party is always that they have conflicting missions, and one is to create games with this sense of patience that Layden talked about. I interviewed him about this back in March, by the way, and he's consistently sort of saying some of these same things. But the other challenge is that you have to show up as a first party at the launch of your consoles, right? And so it's tougher when a game might take 7 years. You can imagine Halo, a Halo game taking that long. And yet, hey, our console launch is coming up in 2 years. What you got for me, right? The hardware makers are going to go. And I remember this debate that Microsoft Xbox had about launching Halo 2 at the time when they were preparing the Xbox 360 game console. Because if you remember, they lost money for 4 years. They lost like $4 billion. On the original Xbox, and they couldn't sustain that kind of rate of loss, and so they launched the Xbox 360 as early as they could, within a sort of a 4-year window there, and that was not enough time to get Halo 2 out the door, and so Ed Fries, had to argue with the rest of the executive team about like, hey, I'm gonna let this one cook. And finish and not rush it out. And everybody else was going, well, who's going to buy our game console then? so the first party, sort of challenge is always that. And, it requires just massive investment so that you can have something coming out every year to match up with whatever year you're launching your game console.
Yeah. And I would be remiss if I didn't share, which I am right now with our live stream, opening the Xbox inside Microsoft's plan to unleash an entertainment revolution by our very own Mr. Dean Takahashi. You can go ahead and read all about those stories right there. I remember, Dean, when that book came out, which was years ago, and just going, man, what a great, incredible, accurate story to go ahead and grab. So if you want to find out more about that, go check it out. Look, 4.5.
This part I just mentioned was in my second book, the Xbox 360 Uncloaked, and it almost felt like Ed Fries was sort of like in the starring role.
There we go.
And And it was, it was one of the things that eventually, caused Ed to leave the Xbox team during the making of that console. So history, but it keeps popping up again. It's like, hey, lessons to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
I do, I think it's interesting that Layden loves the idea of AA games and making games for 15 or 20 hours, charging for them appropriately, but delivering games, on franchises that are popular that gamers want. And he thinks that they will be happy with these 20-hour, 15-hour games instead of 100-hour games that take 7 years to make and maybe go off the rails, right?
Well, Dean, I would say that there is a co-host here who has actually been saying that now for quite a long time. So I'm glad Sean finally had a chance to catch up, buddy. No, but that's exactly right. Because, look, we take a look at other forms of media and what it's doing to the way people consume it. And people are moving towards...
You cannot play a 100-hour game and change diapers at the same time, right?
Right. But you could go ahead and play that 1 hour out of a 6-hour long one, take the break, go ahead and tend to yourself, and then jump back in and not feel like, oh, I've got all this other progression to go. And so you're able to taste more stories, experience more things in the things that you love with the finite amount of time that we have, right, to play. And so I do think AAA, right, single A, like, we're going to start to see more and more of those suck up the oxygen in the room. We've already started to see that in 2024.
Well, it does make me wonder if the business models that might be less risky going forward are games as a service, where you could, if you're going to move to a new console, you move the back end, the technology to the new machine, but you're not reinventing all the creative material and episodic material like Telltale's old stuff, where you do that first shot and it's a short-term game, and if it's successful, then you can build on the story. And again, you got that like common back end, so you're not building as big of a thing to do the second round.
Yeah, could be depending on the game, right? One that may not have to lean into show me the newest whiz bang, rendered blah blah blah, right? It's how do I go ahead and make just a quality game? And again, we're starting to see more and more of that. We're seeing more throwback graphics, people not pushing the bounds of realism, which I believe he also mentioned, right? It's just make a great game, right? And then go build on that framework. So yeah, yes.
I'm looking back at the week, and boy, I had 13 stories run on Tuesday.
Oof,
my God,
it was pretty tough week, but we could spend all this time on AWE. Also at Augmented World Expo, Tap XR came out with their sort of wrist motion sensing device that basically tracks what you're doing with your wrist, and then uses it as input for XR devices. And so you could sort of just tap with your fingers and it'll capture all that motion, and you have a virtual keyboard or just a virtual user interface of things that you want to point at or tap. And so I thought that was very interesting. They made this work with the Magic Leap 2 headset. And so very interesting sort of alternative way of getting inputs into XR devices with your fingers.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It reminds me of with Zuckerberg like a year ago or something was talking about wearing a band on your wrist and tracking the muscular activities by the electrical signals, and being able to measure where your fingers are with that, which I thought was really interesting, but that technology hasn't come out, right? I wonder if this is the same thing. It seems really interesting.
Well, I've got a picture. I've got Dean's article up here and a picture of it, and it has a camera on the wristband itself. So
different. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty cool though.
All right, cool.
Pretty cool.
Let's try it out.
Yeah.
Well, here's my old man yelling at cloud moment, right? Which is, I think all of these things are great, but we also, I think one of the interesting things that we have to contend with, right, is the fact that we are still not engaging one of our 5 principal senses, and one that actually informs more in some cases than the other sense. Virtual, really difficult skating systems that are then muted, right, by it. I don't have an answer for that unless we're doing, balloon-based air-filled haptic suits and all that other kind of crazy stuff. But this seems like another good step forward in kind of those micro movements and things that we're going to do in VR. But touch, we are still tactile creatures, So again, I don't have an answer, just another thought that I thought I would spit out after my second cup of tea and 1 cup of coffee this morning.
Yeah.
So lots of caffeine right now.
I feel like the more you keep thinking, as the more of these we do, it seems like every week I stare at my computer and I've got like one camera that I turn on and off, no haptic anything, not even on my mouth. There's no haptic, like right, zero. I have one microphone and speakers. I was like, no smell-o-vision. No, like, why is this not more multimodal? I don't even have a touch device on this because it's a desktop. Like, I should have a touch device. Yeah, we got work to do.
We do. Baby steps. We're getting there.
I think if I just had a coffee smell all day long, I would stay awake, right? It's just like,
I like this plan. Okay. Coffee smell subscription service coming soon.
Oh my. All right. What is next up on the board to discuss?
Well, there was a Nintendo Direct this week as well, and lots of interesting games mentioned. Metroid Prime 4 is Beyond is coming in 2025.
Yeah.
But they also had The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom announced. And this is a Zelda game where you get to play as Zelda.
Finally! Finally!
Yeah. And it's because Link is missing for some reason. And Zelda has to take on some tasks on her own to figure out.
What you're saying, Dean, is this is the Luigi's Mansion of Zelda, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of people were very excited to have an alternative way of playing here.
Yeah, I love it. And the whole mechanic was Zelda can learn the echoes of objects and then replicate the echoes of them to solve basically problems. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like, what is it, Captain Toad's treasure tracker type of, let me figure out how to navigate this space by using some of this stuff. I thought it was super clever. And I even posted something and said, how come, I mean, just everything they do is just magic. Like the music, the graphics, the story, just even the way they described it, it was just, you couldn't help but smile during it. It was awesome. I cannot wait to play this game. Can't wait.
Yeah.
It's really reminiscent for me of the construction system in the last Zelda game and how dynamic it was. At first, I thought it was too wide open and it was really complicated, and I was super frustrated. And then you slowly figured out what you do, of course, as that's how it works. And so this reminded me of that. It's like, well, I could get echoes of so many things, and it gives me so many options. Like, what am I gonna do? Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
Emergent gameplay.
Nintendo's focus here was really on mostly on games that are coming out in the second half of the year, and very different from the Xbox showcase, which I felt was spectacular, but kind of cheated by including a lot of games that are coming in 2025 or possibly later. Interesting sort of strategies each big platform is taking. Ubisoft also, they contain themselves to what's coming this year, right? And they have a couple of really big games in Assassin's Creed Shadows, and they have Star Wars Outlaws, because they kind of learned their lesson of like, people are still wondering, like, when is Beyond Good and Evil 2 coming that you announced 12 years ago? And also, Skull and Bones went through something like 7 years of more work after they announced it, right?
Yeah.
So Ubisoft has sort of contained themselves. Microsoft is in a different position where everybody's going like, you guys have been so quiet. Where are all these games from all these companies that you bought? right? Instead, you're shutting down studios, you're laying off people. What's going on? Where are your games? And the Xbox showcase this time around at the Summer Game Fest was outstanding in that you kind of understood just how much Microsoft owns now, right? Like they've got 40 studios, 25,000 people in gaming, and so they can pop out these Doom games and same in the same event talk about a new Gears of War and Microsoft Flight Simulator coming this year, Age of Mythology coming this year, Indiana Jones, and Call of Duty Black Ops 6, right? So it's just it was a crazy year for those announcements or a set of weeks here. But yeah, it's fun to see Nintendo weigh in and say, yeah, we got stuff too. So
yes, no announcements about any upcoming hardware, but check out all the other stuff we have right now, which is fine. Yeah, which is absolutely fine.
There was I did an interview that I thought was fun from way back when I went to Dubrovnik for Reboot with a guy named Tomislav Uzalak from 2x2, I guess, or 2x2, maker of war games. And so he made Unity of Command, and he made Unity of Command 2 like 5 years ago, and they've been churning out scenarios for this World War II game for 5 years now, and people continue to play it, and they've got like 250 battles now that you play in this hex-based turn-by-turn strategy game, and I've tried it out, and it's got some sort of dizzying complexity to it in terms of keeping your divisions in supply as you're charging forward. But yeah, very interesting conversation we had. He started out as a young guy making the first MP3 decoder, I guess, and it got used. He said put it out as an open source thing, and Winamp picked it up and
put it into their Winamp
and just ran with it. And I think he eventually got a little bit of money out of this, and then he went off to start making war games. So interesting journey.
Yeah, what was the quote? Winamp whips the llama's ass, right? Just
and there was I don't know, more interesting news. Dune Awakening, the MMO from Funcom, got its bigger gameplay reveal this week. They showed it at Summer Game Fest, and
I'm gonna pop that up here for everyone.
The trailer was interesting, and like you have a Dune game, you're making an MMO, and how do you make this surprising and fun for players, especially those who have read the books and know exactly what's going to happen when like the Atreides, hey, make sure your shields stay up. If your shields go down, it's all over. But they they created a plausible story, which is like Paul Atreides is the prophet. He knows the future, knows all the different scenarios that could happen in the future, and then he says in this trailer, but there's one that I think about a lot, where I was never born, right? And there is this thing in the novels about like the Bene Gesserit women who was married to the Duke here, Duke Atreides, had the ability to choose, whether or not she's going to have a girl or a boy as a baby.
Right.
And she chose a boy to make her Duke happy. And so out of love, she decided to go against what the order that she was in commanded, because they wanted to breed a superhuman, right? And instead they got a nasty surprise of Paul Atreides, who turns against them, doesn't do what they want, and And so if Jessica had chosen to have a girl, then the future would have been entirely different, right? And so that's what they use as the premise for the Dune MMO, where now anything can happen. And all we do is sort of deliver this world to you. Paul Atreides doesn't exist. The Atreides are still there. All the factions are there. But now you guys can sort of make your own future. And so that's much more plausible for a long-lasting MMO that people would say, feel like making their own, right?
Yeah.
Their own story.
Yeah, it kind of feels similar to the approach that, well, not similar, but maybe similar in spirit of Hogwarts Legacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter, there's no Voldemort, right? This takes place within the universe before those things are there. So you don't know, kind of what to do. The houses are the same, that kind of thing. But you're kind of extracted from the lore that you grew up with to kind of craft your own. I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that same narrative challenge that I think that every MMO has, right? you base it on some kind of brand that everybody's familiar with, but then you can't just retell the story of that novel or something, right? So,
yes.
Boy, I miss playing a good MMO. I think it's been a long time since I've really gotten immersed in one,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The good old days of everybody playing World of Warcraft for a while.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I just done a rewind episode where I was actually playing some of those MMO clips in the background, and the one for where all the characters are playing D&D, and one of the characters is in the kitchen going, "Where are the Doritos?" Do you remember that one? It was like, I forget the name, but I was like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Do you have any Mountain Dew? No, we have no Mountain Dew. I attack the darkness.
Man, yep, that's a good one.
Yep.
Did you guys have other things you wanted to bring up from the news too?
So I got something. I'm always kind of watching AI related stuff, and there was some good AI news this week. Of course, there's always good AI news. But the thing that was interesting is there's something that I found this morning. I was trying to dig it back up just now and found it again. And the headline of it is that analysts, researchers are identifying some of the time why the LLMs seem to quote unquote hallucinate and are being able to identify it in many cases. So for us, when we get a hallucination from an LLM, we've asked it a question and it gives us an answer, and maybe the answer is not true. We call that a hallucination. So this research paper, they're fine-tuning that and calling a subset of those things confabulations, which is a term we all know. But, essentially what they're saying is like that the LLM is having competing positive results. So at the numeric level, maybe there are 8 or 9 things that it all has the same value and wants to return, and so it's choosing one because it has to give you an answer. Maybe it's choosing one that is not proper. So these kind of systems, they can identify when the LLM is doing that in this research, and at least flag it, or maybe find a different way to find the answer. So if we're able to more frequently identify hallucinations that are confabulations, maybe we can find a way to get more reliable results out of these systems, and that's what's interesting about this paper. So if you want to find the research, look for and confabulations. There have been a few articles over the past couple of days. I'm looking at one of ours right now, which dives a little deeper in the tech than other ones. But anyway, super interesting.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I mean, but I do think one of the I'm very interested to read that, but I think one of the things that it brings up is if it was truly intelligent, it would figure out which one to pick. Right. So
note to self.
Right. Important to remember when we talk about this, replacing actual intelligence of humans, right? Yeah. It can't do that. So yes, amazing tools that are going to help developers in so many awesome ways, but understand where it breaks, right? So we don't break ourselves.
Easy to forget at some points. Sometimes though, it's really easy to forget. And the news that was game relevant coming out of AIs this week was Anthropic's
Yeah.
Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and people asking the thing to generate. Somebody uploaded like a one-sheet instruction manual for the Moncala game, the old Moncala game.
Yeah.
And it just generated a web page that played the game like in 25 seconds. It was like, bam, here you go. Here's the game. It was just like, whoa, okay, that's amazing. Right?
Yeah.
So it is hard to look at that and go, oh, you're like that. You're not an intelligence, but it's not.
No,
but
it's
start to make
it's
you
fast.
question what intelligence is.
Right.
You know? Like, wait,
Right.
am I doing the same thing in my head? I'm just like, what's the next word? What's the next word? I don't know.
Yeah. So, but then do it with something that doesn't have such a long history. Do it with a relatively new game, right?
Yeah, right. Or try to make something completely new. And good luck
Right.
with that. That's
Exactly.
hard.
But I should also mention that new model runs on what? AWS Bedrock, so you can
What?
actually go there and play around with it, right? I would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and actually
I
mention
better
that.
go look at that.
Yes, yeah, you can play around with it and all the other LLMs that run on the system, right? Which is actually a really cool thing that the company does. Makes all of those available in one spot so you can play around with what works best for you, right? Did I mention to you at one point we had an AWS colleague that actually had a bunch of LLMs playing Street Fighter against each other? Did I mention that? In a
Oh
previous
yeah.
episode?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
and
that.
they did all these findings on like which one could actually do it best, and one of the conclusions was, well, you can't just use a generalized prompt that works for one. You have to understand how to prompt the different models, right, to improve their chances. But still, really cool. And I think that's when we're talking about, beating up game systems and stretching them to figure where the breakpoints are. A great use case for these large language models, right, for AI, right?
Yep.
Help us make better, more solid games, right?
Well, I thought you were
Yeah.
saying more solid Street Fighter competitors. That's important.
Do your worst.
That's you.
No, I suck at Street Fighters.
How else are you going to test that 10,000 person Street Fighter MMO?
That's right. Yeah. Oh, Street Fighter MMO. Oh my gosh. It would take you a year to get out of the town because you'd just be fighting everything.
Oh, it's Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm sorry. That's what it is.
You just gave an executive an idea. There you go.
Oh, see? That's right. Trademark, Boss Rush, just
What if we could
That's right. It's Street Fighter crossed with World of Warcraft. Ready go.
Oh no, thank
gotta
you.
be it'll double as the metaverse, right?
That's right. Oh yeah.
Ah, Dean.
Hey, we're always trying to get 10,000 people into the same experience, right? Little
Yeah.
did we know that Street Fighter was the solution.
That's right. I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day about back when, earlier days of MMOs, how like EVE Online to get, I think it was like 15,000 or 20,000 the same space. They were using military grade RAM disks. If you remember back then, these are like $500,000, SSDs basically that you could rack up just to be able to handle all the transactions. Crazy. Oh, those were the days, man.
Yeah, that was the tech experiment, but they're still trying to do that, right? They're still trying to make that happen in real time. Right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Let's see. I did write about another announcement of a game called Infinite Inside. It's a VR game from Maze Theory out of London, and it's debuting in July on the MetaQuest, PlayStation VR 2, Pico, and Steam. But it's also debuting on the Apple Vision Pro, and it starts with a column in your living room, and it's a mixed reality game, and you're there in your own living room, and this strange alien / Roman like column has appeared in your living room, and you have to figure out what it is and what's going on there. And you can walk around it, and you got to figure out. It's called a plinth, which I didn't know those things were called. But this plinth has little puzzle pieces and different sort of mysteries around it, and almost feels like a kind of like a missed linking book sort of thing. Like if you find the right sort of thing, and you're constantly sort of pulling things with your fingers, and you can enter into some infinite world through messing around with the different I don't know, Jenga-like puzzle pieces here.
Right. So basically a giant puzzle box that appears in your room that you have to engage with.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes you
in three-dimensionally, right? So,
yeah.
Like the room, but it's in your room.
Oh, the room. Oh my gosh, those games were so good. Yeah, Dean, I actually have the article that you have up here on the site in the live stream here. Now what I want to see is, I mean, that's really cool, but one of the pictures they have is the object in the room there. I want to see it reflected in the mirror in the room. That's when you start to get me, right?
You're demanding.
Yeah. I think
I demand realism.
Throw you for a loop to see it in your own, say, living room, right? So
right.
What's this thing with my house?
What if I put a fake mirror on the wall and then put a reflection in? Would that
Perfect.
be okay?
Yeah. Now there you go. There you go. Yeah. Exactly.
And then you forget to flip the image around.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. That's cool. I gotta look at that. Is this shipped? I can't tell if it's shipped or if it's in the process.
It's coming in July. I think July 12th.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, the MetaQuest 3, you can play the game at room scale, walk around, explore the plinth, and find its secret drawers and puzzle pieces. Not a fitness app, but you are actively moving around an object in a safe space.
And it's time for the release of the Apple Vision Pro in 8 more countries, including a bunch in Europe and Japan, right? So all you have to do to play this game is go buy a $3,500 headset.
Okay.
Right. Or a Quest 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. I find myself not wanting to walk around in a space when I'm wearing my headset. Just in general, I'm like, the games that I want to play are the ones that let me put on the headset but sit in my chair.
Well, the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge ones were really good. Those are really good.
It's room scale. I want to go sprinting at my highest speed.
Oh, we have a ton of those clips for sure.
I do keep fantasizing about being able to put on my Quest and go down to Seattle Center down here, which I live pretty close to. And I'm like, what kind of games? Like, if you get 10 people to come down there and they're all in their Quests and, in like MR modes, you're looking through it. What kind of interesting games could you make for that? Keep thinking about that.
Yeah.
Might be something.
There you go. Stop giving away all the best ideas, man. What are you doing?
Ideas are cheap. It's the execution that's hard and expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, spoken like a non-visionary. Okay. Well, I had we had a comment actually here from Michael Ladat. Today happens to be Stop Cyberbullying Day.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, something we should absolutely mention, and I have the website up here. A global day of unity and action. Stop Cyberbullying Day is an annual event that brings millions of people together from around the world to celebrate and promote a truly diverse and inclusive internet. And of course, we know that in games, you have heightened emotion and everything else, and sometimes, right, it gets the best of us. Super important to remember that there is a human being on the other side of that chat. There is somebody there, right, that has a family, that it's a person, and so we just have to be gentler with each other, kinder with each other, right? Give more space for each other, and I'm glad that we bring awareness to this through days like this, right? So definitely go ahead and check out stopcyberbullyingday.org, and really good.
I think stop cyberbullying a lot of these days just means stay off of Twitter.
That's just getting better and better over time.
Actually, I find that the community in LinkedIn is far more supportive.
Yes.
More interested in professional conversation.
Yes. Well, you remember there's that old penny arcade theory, right? The greater internet theory, which is, captive audience plus anonymity equals, right? Not the best behavior sometimes. And so again, just super important to remember, it's they're people, there.
There was another interesting thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. So again, thanks. Shout out to Michael no, hey, yeah. Thanks, Michael, for reminding us of that day. So thank you, buddy.
Sorry, I missed what you just said. Can you say that again?
So back to AWE, Xreal announced something called the Beam Pro, which it's like a extra pack that you carry with you for your augmented reality glasses. And they found that, like, if you took your glasses and you plug them into your phone, then you might very quickly drain the battery on your phone, and you don't want this to happen, right? And so they created another Android device that looks like a phone. It's got the user interface of a phone, but it's not a phone. You can do Wi-Fi on it or something, like through WhatsApp or something. But instead, the main purpose really is to give you something to control whatever you want to control on your glasses, like use the phone for the phone-like device for that, but also have this battery pack, and that has two USB-C connections to it, and so you can plug the glasses into the Beam Pro, and then you could also plug a battery into the Beam Pro and charge the Beam Pro, keep it all going for a much longer time than you otherwise might get stuck with a short battery life, and you're trying to watch a 2-hour movie on this sort of 100-inch virtual screen or something. But the problem always being that, hey, I just ran out of battery, now I can't watch my movie, right? So interesting workaround for some of these problems we have in the near term of, like even the Apple Vision Pro has to be plugged into a battery all the time.
Sure.
But that also means that you can't have something in your hand to control what you see on the Apple Vision Pro because you're not plugging it into your phone, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it might be sound janky. It's like I got one thing plugged into another thing, plugged into another thing.
Yeah.
But that thing could also be the wall. Like you could be charging constantly, right? So interesting. I guess course of action they had to resort to in order to make it easier to use their device.
Sure. Yeah.
I like that as an experiment, just to see how receptive the consumer market will be towards something like that. It's interesting.
So this is like the second version of it, and the first version of it they say is selling 70% attach rate to glasses, right? So.
Holy cow! All right, well, that sounds promising.
Yeah.
Dang.
One more thing I did was finally run a story about the demo I had of Tales of the Shire, which is a Hobbit game coming from Embracer Groups. Tales of Shire. Anyway, I forget the developer for the moment. I look it up. But it's like, what would the Lord of the Rings, the Shire, be like if the Black Riders never showed up? It's just that happy, cozy Hobbit experience. Going out and gardening and picking up things from the garden and cooking them and having meals all day long and delivering food to your friends. And
it's a licensed cozy game. That seems very smart.
A licensed what?
Cozy game.
Yes. Yeah. Cozy games.
Came from Weta Workshop.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Peter Jackson's company.
Yeah.
And it was licensed a while ago. So before Embracer picked up the Tolkien license. Interesting, fun little game.
Yeah, I had a chance to meet with the team actually at GDC. Fantastic team. Fantastic. Building a really, really good game. So it's so good to see more of it coming out, right?
That's great.
Yeah. Getting more Tolkien back into games.
Yes.
We're all taking a break from superheroes, gonna get more Tolkien again.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
None of that Dungeons and Dragons stuff, right?
Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We have to save the children.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I got alerted to this game that popped back up on the Switch, and I think it was like $7.95. It was We Heart Katamari Reroll Royal Reverie, and it is fantastic. And I just have it up on our live stream now. So good. It's Katamari Damacy, which is just so it is. It is. There are very few games I reserve this word for, which is joyous. It is such a joyous damn game to get. It's so weird, like the king of the cosmos is just creepy and weird. The prince is amazing. It's fantastic. So I think again, like $7-8, something like that. If you've never played Katamari or you need it on a new platform, definitely.
More games like that, and a big part of it, I think, was the soundtrack. Right? It was amazing. It reminded me. The soundtrack reminds me of Matsuura's games a little bit, the Parappa stuff. Just in it's like the joy that it brings when you're playing it.
Yeah. I mean, kick, punch. It's all in the mind. If you want to test me, I'm sure you'll find. The thing I'll teach you is sure to beat you, but nevertheless, you get a lesson from teacher. Now kick.
Oh my God.
Sorry. Yes.
It's so good though.
Yeah, so that one has been pretty awesome. And then I did want to share a really interesting little in the Katamari game, they have Blinky from Pac-Man in there as one of the characters. Yes, what? Well, it's a Bandai Namco thing. So, okay. I'm just going to have to dig deeper into it now. Ooh, I'm going to have to do a live play.
So you're playing this. It looks like we're rolling up on the end. What are you guys playing?
Yeah, so we're doing that. And I didn't want to share this other one. There is a gentleman, Glenn Evanbly, over here at AWS. I just popped up the image here. He is a research scientist here at AWS. And he works at the AWS Center for Quantum Computing. And he made a video game that you can play in the browser called the Qubit Factory that teaches you quantum computing.
Oh, that's great.
It's really, really cool. And it's very much like some of like the node-based type of games. I think it's like If Then While, I think was the name of the game, right? That taught you machine learning and stuff like that through it. So this teaches you the fundamentals of quantum computing. Completely free. It's qubitfactory.io. So I had a chance to play around with the beta of it. Now it's been released publicly, and I'm going to have him on another show that I do to actually talk about what the hell is quantum computing? Like, how do we frame it in a way that, lay people can understand it? And we're going to go play through Qubit Factory. So that's what I'm playing. How about you? What are you guys playing these days?
I'm playing Unity of Command 2, getting started on that. Also playing a review copy of Riven, which is being remade and is coming out next week as well. And it's kind of like an amazing experience to be in that
world again.
It's not even cinematic. It is photorealistic. It was you're moving from photo to photo to photo in that game, right?
Yeah.
And now you can actually move in a 3D world, which is consisting of the same images.
I love it.
That's the amazing part.
Yeah. Hey, just speaking of that real quick before we get to Mark for the last bit there. One of the crazy things about Myst, I don't know if you all experienced this when you first played it. It is an unnerving environment to be in. Like if you're playing by yourself in the dark with lights out, because part of the game is you're hearing noise, off screen when you do something, and the noises are not really easily identifiable, right? And it is very much obviously a game of surrealism. But man, I just remember being like, okay, take a deep breath. I don't know where that came from, but there's some
really
shit
fond
going
memories
down.
of that. Even though I had like a 16-inch little CRT monitor, right? Like all the lights were off, the sound was up. I was mapping things out on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
I love that game.
Yeah, it is amazing. All right, Mark, what are you playing, buddy?
Yeah.
Before we wrap up.
Well, so I'm still coming back to Animal Well every day a little bit, and getting further and getting further and getting further. I kind of rationed myself on that. But then the Crashlands 2 demo from Butterscotch Shenanigans came out. I got super excited about that. I mean, because Butterscotch Shenanigans, how can you not play a game that as a developer name?
Yeah.
Anyway, Crashlands. Yeah, I played it so much on iPad back in the day. So Crashlands 2 coming soon.
Nice.
Super excited about
And
that.
Butterscotch had an underrated flavor. Underrated flavor. Yes, I know
Very
it leans.
Werther's, you know, it kind of reminds you of like your grandma's sticky candy. In the
Exactly. Would you care for a warm butterscotch? It's like, no. First, why is it warm?
Gross.
The worst was ribbon candy. Do you remember what ribbon candy was? And it was like, it was all of this like beautifully colored and shaped candy, but it was all open. Like none of it was packed, and it would always sit like in a candy dish, and you'd go to grab one, and the whole dish of candy would pop out. Oh, disgusting.
Yeah, I remember that. That's ban that from my memory. Hey, before we go, so this coming week is Games for Change. I'll be out in New York City. If anybody's going to be there, please come to our panel. We're going to do a panel on AI and education. With Jeff Bell and Colleen Macklin and Sylvia Lovato. It should be super fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Games for Change, amazing conference. Love the stuff that comes out of it, and really stretches the way we think about what video games can be, the stories we can tell, how we can help people through them. So yeah, love it. I'm glad you're going to be up there, buddy.
Yeah, it reminds me too. I'm going to be out next week. I'll be out in Brazil at the Gamescom Latam / Big Festival conference.
Awesome.
I'll be doing like a dinner on Thursday night, and then a panel about this time on AI in games on Friday. So
all right,
very cool. Well, then we won't have you here next week. Hopefully we'll have Susan back, and Mark, hopefully you'll be able to join us. Are you going to be up in New York during that time?
I will be, but I may be able to jump in.
Let's go and do that. That'd be great to hear about what's going on up there. And well, guess what, gang? We made it to the end of it, and we only had one small little hiccup. Mark disappeared for a blip of time, and then reappeared, and we kept on going without any sort of real breakage. So yay to everybody for doing that. Yeah, we're getting all the sound effects in here.
Was it when I mentioned the word ribbon and he just like went off in a linking book somewhere?
Yeah, what I really need then is that sound effect that that just sucks him into a book.
Yeah, that's the best.
Well, you know what? Actually, when you disappeared, as he was talking about, it was all that static snow from TV, just like in the game. So we planned that. That's the level of professionalism that we have here at Boss Rush. But that's going to take us to the end of this week. Thank you so much, Dean and Mark, for joining us once again. And thank you all for jumping in. Please go ahead and subscribe. No, I'm not going to make you do that. But go ahead and do tell people that we are here every Friday afternoon. And we'll
Friday morning.
What's that?
Yeah, or morning for us, West Coasters.
Yes. Yeah. It's morning for you, afternoon for me. I will be here on the East Coast in the studio late tonight till about 8 o'clock because we're doing some stuff with an event going on at USC, and Mr. Graham Devine had invited me to participate, so I will be doing that this afternoon. But it's going to be a good weekend, and I'll tell you about it next week. So anyway, thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your day and awesome weekend. We'll see you all next week. Take care. Bye.